Hi, welcome to a discussion for the Journal of Special Education and Preparation on an article this team has written on using an AI agent to support teacher instruction and student learning. I'm Lisa Deeker and the lead author on the article, but really here with our collaborative team that we also want to acknowledge that we're missing Sachin Shah and Cameron Ali, who both are part of our tech team but couldn't be with us today. And we're really excited to share a little bit about our project and our article related to creating AI agents. So I'm going to kick us off with letting Eileen Wilkins, the PI on this project, share a little bit about our team.
Well, thanks, Lisa. So this is an exciting team and a great collaborative project. UCP of Central Florida is a network of inclusive public charter schools in Central Florida. And with our partner of University of Central Florida and University of Kansas, we've really gotten together and gotten some great brains together to really try to make an impact on how do we improve communication between kids with disabilities, particularly on the autism spectrum.
Great. Thanks, Eileen. So one of the things that I think we're really excited about is to share with you a little bit about what is an AI agent. And hey, Becky, do you want to share a little bit with the team, like what AI agents are, our listeners, and what they might want to think about in relation to AI agents?
Sure, Lisa. So, as our team knows, over the past 5 years since we began this project, what an AI agent looks like has changed dramatically. In our case, our goal from the start of this project was to create a safe friend for someone who struggles with communication and also with mathematics, to have a tutor who can guide them, kind of a guide on the side. So we began with one idea of what this might look like, and we grew in a whole new and exciting direction. But Lisa, there's no reason for me to talk about it. How about we show our AI agent to our audience?
Great. So Tiffany, you want to share a little bit of our AI agent to the audience?
This is the WAVE platform, and I'm going to go into phase 1, where ZB is going to teach the students how to code.
Hi, I'm ZB. I'm excited to work with you today. You're going to make a square. Listen to the directions above, and if you need to hear it again, press the speaker button on the left. Now, let's make a square.
So then the students will then drag and drop, just like they're coding a square, and then they're going to hit play.
There goes the robot.
And you can see Razy
Let's keep the pattern going.
continues down at the bottom of the code.
There goes the robot.
Great. Thanks, Tiffany. And I think that's what's exciting for this team is that we got
You-
some confetti going there. And we had the opportunity, as we said, to really think about what is an AI agent. And what I love what Tiffany just shared is it actually allows a teacher to do that work without needing to be there because the agent can do the coaching. So as Tiffany said, these are our two agents, Razy and ZB. And so we're going to show you a little bit more and talk about that literature. So with that, Sean and Tiffany, anything you want to add about our two friends, ZB and Razy, and kind of what we've learned about them as an AI agent?
Well, one of the things I wanted to point out is that if you don't actually put in the right steps to create a square, that the AI agent ZB will help you, give you some guidance, but only give you guidance if you fail a couple of times. If it recognizes good patterns, it gives you great encouragement for it. Razy is the robot that you're actually programming. The software itself can control a physical robot, but right now we're showing a virtual one, and we've used that for some of our studies to make sure we have consistency across all the groups.
Yeah, Charlie, and I think another exciting thing that to bring to the attention, in reflecting is that we started off with a physical robot Dash, and now we've gone to the virtual robot Ray Z. And also to note that ZB looks the way he does now with feedback from the UCP students. And so that was really, I think, a cool idea that the team had to get the kids involved in what was something cute that they liked.
Yeah, I'm a great fan of code design, and that's what occurred here, and it was very successful. The teachers working with the students to create the design of the character. Thank you.
Lisa, I wanted to also mention the way that the language for our AI agent was developed. So this was from many, many trials with students and looking for patterns, not only from an expert who is interacting with students and pulling down their script, but also the kids' scripts themselves, so that we could reliably predict the kind of questions, the kind of interactions, the kind of problems, and pull down scripted language that we could then use in our code.
Great, thanks. And so one of the things we wanted to do is talk a little bit about that we didn't just do this, it didn't just fall out of the sky. And we think it's really important for the readers as they read the article to know there is a literature behind this, but sad to say it's not in the disability area. And it's really not in the natural setting. So we really were kind of jumping off a cliff. But Kate, you want to share some of the things we do know from the literature about AI agents and the use in the classrooms?
Absolutely. So what we found in the literature is there's a lot of support for using agents that students can connect with, that are emotionally responsive to students. And so with that in mind, we've worked to make ZB also reflect that type of emotional response to what students are doing. So the literature generally suggests that the more responsive an AI agent is to what a student is doing and to individual students, the more motivated students are to interact with that agent, and there's potential gains in learning. So that's one area we focused on in our design of ZB.
Great. And I think the other one is that we want to just keep reminding listeners, and as they're reading the article, really the literature on using AI agents for people with disabilities is not only very slim, but it's almost zero when you go into the classroom, like what Karen and Eileen have provided us in the UCP of Central Florida schools. And that's been really exciting for us. Maybe a few challenges to go along with that, but it's been a very exciting process. And so really what we learned, or the outcomes from our literature, is that really a personalized agent can help people with engagement. And we're now seeing that truly with the kids. We wish we could share videos with you. Of course, that's, IRB protected, but we do have some kids who sing the ZB song and have fallen in love with ZB, and that's been fun for the team. It's really been helpful for facial emotion recognition. The heart on ZB changes colors. We'll talk about that in a moment. But really, one of our big ones was initiating conversation. But really, there's not yet a natural conversational AI agent. It's getting better. And if you follow some of the new AI developments, there's good ones. They're not so good with some of our wonderful friends who want to tell knock-knock jokes constantly, or want to scream at the agent, or want to kiss the agent, or tell the agent stories that aren't always sensical. So that's something that we really think is a new opportunity as we think about this in the disability literature. So Tiffany, what are some of the questions we've been trying to answer with this research?
So our first question is really around conversation. We know when we first started, it was targeted specifically to students with ASD, and we know that conversation for them can be a little difficult. So we were really looking at how many times did a student have conversations within the classroom? Well, what we found out is through our research that math didn't always give us opportunities for that. And we'll talk about think, pair, share in a minute. But so as we've gone through the process, our study question has changed a little bit to more of what opportunities do they have to have conversations? So are they having conversations with their peers? Are they having conversations with their teachers? Are they having their conversations with their associate/para? So that's the first thing that we're looking at. We're looking at their initiation and their response. And then we're also looking at, does ZB help with that on-task behavior in the math class setting? So ZB is our little cheerleader per se in math class to help a student stay on task.
Great, thanks. And Karen, you want to share a little bit of kind of what the study has been across all the wonderful schools you've helped us get access to, and kind of what the process is. And Sean, of course, feel free to chime in as you'd like.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and jump in here. The overview, as Tiffany just says, we're looking at overall looking at ways to increase on-task behaviors as well as communication skills. What the platform, the WAVE platform, which you saw at the beginning, it's basically in addition to an opportunity to show the students basic coding skills, and a lot of them have had some experience with that, but then getting having the objective to code a square specifically and allow themselves to be challenged in a way that we give them the challenge, we provide some feedback so that helps them with the problem solving skills. They are collaborating with peers when they bring them for phase 2 to communicate and show their peer what they've learned. And obviously, Karen, you can talk about this, but it's all within the classroom. We've moved it to that in year 5. So through our research, we now have everything web-based. And so the kids can learn in a distracted-free environment within the safe space of their classroom. So Karen, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, we have really seen the student engagement increase because not only do they learn coding, they learn something new. There's this new skill. We have this new friend, ZB, but now I get to share it with my friend. I get to share what I've learned with my friend. And so that encouraged that engagement with our students with disabilities.
Yeah, and Karen, one of the things I don't think we wrote about in the article, but you've really led the expertise and collaboration with Sean in, is getting the buy-in of administrators. And do you have any tips for folks that might say, yeah, I'd love to do this, but how do I get a principal to let an AI agent come in a classroom besides, having you and Eileen as leaders that say, bring everything into the room? What were some of the things that you did to kind of help administrators feel comfortable with this kind of an AI agent?
Yeah, Sean and I really worked together with trying to streamline the process. So it didn't seem like it was one more thing. As we talked about, it was during math session. And so that really streamlined, which really benefited the success of really rolling this out in schools and teachers really being on board with it. I think the notion of, hey, I have something in place for my students with disabilities who don't necessarily like to engage or volunteer, to be able to be part of something that would encourage them to be more engaging, to speak in the classroom. And so that's what really entices people to join this project.
Yeah,
and I think
go ahead, Sean.
Sorry, Lisa. I think too, specifically with the administrators and the buy-in, Lisa, is that we have found that there's a lot of parents of our student population that don't have resources. They don't have accessibility to things like this. And so really that was a big driving force behind us telling the administration is that we have a resource that may help to improve communication on task behaviors with this group. And of course, the teachers had buy-in because they're working with these kids one-on-one. So ultimately, I think the population had a lot to do with it. And the fact that parents really were in support of that.
Yeah, and Eileen, I think if you want to mention who funds this, I think the word free might come out of your mouth somewhere, which I think is important too.
Yeah, so obviously we were funded through a federal USDOE OSEP grant, Stepping Up Technology, and that certainly was a great beginning for us. But I do think one of our priorities really has been to, what we can create that can be sustainable, that an average teacher could use easily and free. So
yeah, free is always good. So Becky, if you want to share a little bit, I know we started off with our Pollyanna liaison that we would just put kids in the classroom and they would talk. And you kind of have led the PD on this project. And since this is a journal for training teachers, I want to talk a little bit about lessons learned and what you had to do to make the AI agent have a purpose in this particular study.
Definitely. And anyone who's done classroom research knows you always have to be ready for whatever you get. And the variance between classrooms is great. So when our goal is to increase communication, peer-to-peer, teacher to student, and reciprocal language, it's very difficult to do a baseline if there is no opportunity for students to interact during the 10-minute period that we are collecting data. So our pre and post measures, we realized early on, needed to be situated in classrooms that included conversation and opportunities for conversation. So we worked to think of
which generally isn't in math class.
Does not always happen in a math class. So we pulled from, a tried and true instructional strategy, think, pair, share, that has specific increments of time for which students are expected to be having a discussion with a peer. So that discussion period did model another phase in our study where students had opportunities to interact with peers. So we chose Think, Pair, Share. It worked out fairly well, but even in using a tried and true structure, fidelity of implementation continued to be an issue, and ensuring those minutes of time that students had an opportunity to converse was still tricky. I do think that once we added Think, Pair, Share, and once we reiterated the importance of fidelity of implementation of the Think, Pair, Share, it definitely shored up our pre and post data collection periods.
Yeah, and it's fun that we, wanted it to be to help people talk, and that kids weren't having a chance to talk. And so we won't go into this in great detail. I'm just going to kind of highlight this very quickly, but you can see there was this pre-observation, as Becky mentioned, Think, Pair, Share. Phase 1, the kids coded a robot. Phase 2, they got to code with the AI agent and Razy, the robot, with a peer. In stage 3, then ZB, the AI agent, came in their classroom while the teacher was doing Think, Pair, Share. And so with that, Sean and Tiffany, you want to talk a little bit of kind of like the process, lessons learned, and then we'll move to Charlie talking a little bit about the tech behind it all.
Did you want me to talk here or?
Sean and Tiffany, and then we'll move to you, Charlie.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, so as far as ZB and Razy, in addition to the coding skills that the kids were learning, and that was something that we did find that introducing a social story helped the students to kind of understand what they were going to be doing. We also added a phase of drive school, which helped them to understand that what the coding would look like, and how they would be moving those blocks and so forth. But ZB really having a one-on-one with the student to coach them through, as Charlie mentioned, you said earlier, Charlie, about how ZB gives feedback. So when we were finding that kids were getting frustrated, and being able to build in things that would redirect the student, and that helped them when it came time to phase 2, sharing with their peer what they were learning, to feel more confident in that. And Tiffany, you can address that if you'd like.
Well, I was just going to say, Charlie alluded to, the feedback, right, that we did when I first showed the platform. If you noticed, I did not finish the square, and the ZB's response was then keep the pattern going. So again, it's that positive reinforcement. It's that other reinforcement. We did incorporate a help button at the bottom. That's kind of like a teacher help. Again, it's been a learning experience, right? From creating your own platform of going from having Razy fall off the, coding and falling off of the platform so you can't see them. And so it really has been a group effort on trying things, seeing what works, making sure students aren't stressed or having issues with the platform. And things have been, one of the big concerns we had to begin with was going from the virtual or the real robot, right? The real Dash robot to a virtual platform. And once the students just had the virtual platform, there was not ever hey, this isn't cool, this isn't neat, is like, oh, this is really neat, right? So there's just been a lot of fun lessons learned and fun watching the students have their aha moments.
And the fact, I think the whole team would chime in here and say the fact that we started off with just ZB, right? But now we have Ray Z. And I think it's worth saying that this team has been exceptional with being intentional about meeting the needs of our population, because Ray Z, we wanted to have a visual for the kids when they connect those blocks, not only to be getting feedback from ZB, but when they push play, they can visualize exactly what the shape is that they're making. That way, when ZB gives them that feedback, they understand, what it is that they need to change up. And this team has just been really, really, like I said, intentional about what this platform, the final result has been.
Well,
And
and
Abby,
article, we kept emphasizing the AI agent, and we really found that this first platform was needed to build an agency with this AI agent. And Razy has become kind of a sub-agent that works with ZB. Great. And so Charlie and Kate, you want to talk a little bit about both the emotional piece that we've tried to give feedback and the programming as well as, and then we'll move to the biometrics.
Yeah, I want to say a few things about what was previously there, and that is, if you notice, there are only those widgets necessary to accomplish the current task. When we originally did it, we gave them lots of options, and it was very confusing. And so we learned. And we can grow the number of widgets, and we do that once they've been successful. So we allow them to learn things incrementally. The other part of this is all web-based. So there is no need to install any software. Everything we have is open, and we are going to provide an open platform for people to continue development. With regard to emotions, what we want is ZB to provide them with some feedback. If they are happy, then ZB can be happy. ZB can also use that to encourage them to be happy. If they do something that they're disgusted by, ZB can join them and they can feel bonds with ZB in that sense. But the other thing it can do is it recognizes, if it happens to recognize frustration or they're going away from the screen, it can encourage them back. And with regard to frustration, it can give them some feedback that says, I'm feeling a little tired right now. Could you help me? I'd like to do some breathing. And that will help the child feel a sense of agency. And so I think ZB becomes a great companion because it actually helps them feel in control and gives them power.
And to highlight what Charlie is saying about emotional expression, I think our team is using it in a very intentional way to have the agent express emotions strategically to enhance that communication with students and to also model emotional expression in context in the situations in the classroom.
And Kate, do you want to talk about the relationship of the biometrics and the agent and how that kind of happened?
Yes, so we are also exploring how biometrics might be able to tell us more about how a student feels when they're interacting with our agent, with the system. And so one of the features of ZB is his heart. So his heart rate can match the student's heart rate if we collect it via devices like the polar sensor that you see on screen here. So that can give us some ideas of perhaps how stressed a student might be in a particular situation.
Great, thanks. Well, and just because I want to make sure we stay true to the time, I'm just going to have us highlight some of the remaining things that we learned or that we put in the article, because that was a great overview. And Becky, if you or Eileen want to share some of the things to think about if you wanted to use an AI agent in your teacher prep program or in your particular school.
Eileen, I'll start. So as I said in the beginning, the challenge is how much technology changes over the course of 5 years. So the technology definitely has been both an opportunity and also a stumbling block for us at different times. So predictably, that's how it can feel to novice users. So I think that our biggest challenge is to continue to streamline this so that any teacher can go to the site and easily use it. And personally, I would love to think that it would also be available to parents since it's web-based. So in an ideal world, we would love to be able to roll this out so that it's available as a support to anyone who needs to use it.
That is definitely what the goal is, Becky.
Yeah, the only thing I would jump in and add was just something generically we talk about is, you want to get the teachers that want to do this first and get their buy-in and get them excited. And then, it's not something you should quote unquote force people into, but then they see how it's working and the outcomes it has for students. And, hopefully others want to join in at that point.
And Karen, anything that you want to add? I know you and Sean have both dealt with internet connectivity issues, but what have been the challenges with that, and maybe some food for thought or any words of wisdom for leaders that might be in those roles of saying, yeah, I would love an AI agent, but I can't even get Wi-Fi in my classroom. So any thoughts there?
Yeah, we did run into a few stumbling blocks to the point of this last go round. We purchased hotspots because some of our schools, the internet was spotty in some areas, and then in some of the districts they had security blocks, and so that made it challenging. Sean, you might want to add something to that.
Yeah, Karen, one of the biggest things that we found as a workaround is we have a sheet, an IT sheet more or less, that we send to the principal. And so the principal can get in contact with either their school-based IT or their district IT, and then they allow it, to where the schools can access it, our websites. So that is something that we've had as a workaround, as you mentioned, the hotspots. And so really, I think it's just like anything else, though, with any other site or program that someone's trying to access. If they're going to have an issue with that, they're going to have an issue with this. So I think a lot of families and homes, they would not run into that, which is encouraging for parents, wanting to use this when we disseminate next year. But yeah, the workaround that we have found for the purpose of collecting the research has been the hotspot. So we'll see how that goes. We're hopeful that will be a success for us.
Well, and this is made so it can run simply on a phone, but we know that even some of our friends in rural communities or in urban communities may still not have service. So again, it is one of those things that you'd want to be thinking about in your school as to how you would help those families. And so we're going to wrap up with kind of lessons learned and future use. And so lessons learned, I think, one I would just say is matching the age. But Kate, do you want to talk a little bit about language patterns and the human in the loop? And then maybe Becky, you can wrap us up with some, thoughts about database use and biometrics.
Yes, so human in the loop, to prototype our AI agent behaviors, we used a human puppeteer for our first iteration of ZB, who could respond in real time to the kids. And I think that helped us rapidly determine what those behaviors should be and respond well to situations we might not have predicted if we had tried to design from the beginning. So that was a really useful tool in designing the behavior of our AI agent.
And, again, the scripting that went into this and the intentionality to really think beyond what traditional current AI can do and to reach those very specific language patterns that we find from some students with disabilities. And the tools that are currently out there, they're not normed on the types of students that we're working with. So I think that was one of the most exciting things about this. I know that all of us also share passion for the biometric part of this, especially for those kids who are nonverbal and still working on being able to articulate conversations, et cetera, but being able to look at when they're feeling stress and distress is a great opportunity because of the depth of programming that went into the ZB as he exists now, getting around some of the hurdles to connect commercial biometric devices to different platforms has been an issue, and we continue to work on that. But I think that that area is one that we'll all see continued growth when it comes to using these types of AI agents.
All right. And then future use, I will just point out one that I think we're going to see more and more AI agents start to pop up as conversational agents. Like if you have not seen Conmigo, that is more thought-provoking than giving answers. And that's really what we tried to make in ZB. But I'm going to leave this part open for anybody in the team, but maybe Becky and Eileen, if you want to start, what are some uses you both see? Have you go first, Eileen, and then anyone else can jump in for the future use to wrap us up in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I do see that, as you said, it's just a great way to kids are so much into technology nowadays and all the rest. It's just a unique way for them to look at things and to get a jump start on things differently.
From the teacher training part and professional development, whether it's pre-service teachers or in-service teachers, the toolkit that we've been working on and the tools that we've used as a part of this process, Sean mentioned the social stories that we use for the kids with ASD, preparing them for the event, the attention to the emotional regulation, even the think, pair, share as a system for promoting communication. All of those are great compact pieces of teacher PD that could be used for teachers of any population of students.
And Charlie, on the okay.
And on that note, I'm going to just kind of add to that we have had an external evaluator that gives us feedback on our project on this grant. And one of the biggest things that's come out of the teacher perspective is that they really, really have found the Think, Pair, Share strategy to be extremely beneficial in their classroom and have continued to use it. So that's really exciting as well. Not a focus initially, but has been, a strength and something that will add to with the PD coming out of this.
Great. Charlie, Kate, anything on the tech side for AI agent use that we should be thinking about?
Well, I just build on where you say understand bias. Everything that's looking at facial expressions has some bias in it based upon the database that's used to build that. Same is true of anything else where machine learning, where AI is being used. So we have to be careful and very careful with the populations we're dealing with. We could make very false assumptions. So what we do is we try to make it so we never actually label a child, ever, and their behavior. We just use it to drive some encouragement their way.
But also, for future, I think we're starting to see the possibilities of real personalization for learners, and that could be really, really good for the students that we work with to have agents that are responsive specifically to their way of working in a classroom.
And Karen, what about for leaders? What do you see as the future use as a leader?
I think the innovative use of AI in the classroom, because sometimes you can perceive it as being something negative, but this is such a positive use in terms of encouraging our students to engage with their peers. It's definitely something that is innovative that we can push into our classrooms.
Thanks. And Tiffany, as the new PhD in the room, her title actually changed from the time we published to this presentation. What do you see as the future use of AI agents?
I see more and more of the AI agents coming into the classrooms. Excited to see where ZB could be. We focused on math, but just think about all the different areas during the school day that we could be looking at during literature, during science, during social studies, all of those different places. And I just continue to see a growth and explosion of AI.
Yeah, and I'm going to end with, I wish I had ZB in a Kmart several years ago when my son, who is amazing now, but had Tourette's and a learning disability, as I was trying to pull him out of the middle of a circle of a coat rack with both of his legs screaming. Probably wasn't a good behavior as a parent, but it sure would have been nice to have an AI agent for both myself and him to help us breathe. I truly believe biometrics can help with all of that, but I believe in that example, it needs to stay with the parent, it needs to stay with the child, and it needs to help us understand what's going on in that moment. Because if I would have known it was coming, I wouldn't have let him in that coat rack. But after the fact, it wasn't an option. And I still look back at that and laugh. And I was like, I wish I had a ZB in my pocket at that moment. So with that, we'll wrap up. And again, every teacher needs a ZB. Every human we think needs a ZB. But again, as Charlie said, one that's not biased, one that doesn't make assumptions, and one that's very safe to use. So this is our website. Feel free to scan if you'd like to go out. And after we finish the research this year, everything out there will be, what's the magical word? Free. So thank you for joining us. And if you have questions, please follow up with us. And we'd love to tell you more about our project.